This video is about something so esoteric, I'm almost embarrassed to be making it, but, well, there are other people like me who are picky to the point of obsession, and for you, I'm doing this video if you're going to work this stitch pattern. This sweater is going to be in the fall 2022 issue of Cast On, and it's called Twisted, and you can see it's Bavarian twist. And this is the sleeve you're looking at here. The sweater is finished. And notice that I have a center panel, this varying cross, and then I have mirrored panels on either side. And on this side, it slants to the left, and on this side, they slant to the right. Now, when you create these cables, you're going to be working with 3 stitches. The stitches on the right and left cross over the stitch in the center. And I'm sure there are easier ways to do this, but I tried them and tried various descriptions of how to do this. And what it did is it did not look like this. These 2 stitches clearly lay over that center stitch in all of these cases. And if you are interested in knitting the sweater and you work these decreases, you can experiment and see if it's something you can live with. I just am picky about stuff like this. I wish I wasn't, but I am, and I notice when it's not right. So to go along with the pattern, I've done this video to show how to work these 2 cables, because it is a different technique for both. So I'm going to take this sweater off here, and I have worked a small portion in the same yarn. Now notice I have 2 cable needles here. In order to do this, and I found this easiest, it's easier if you use 2 cable needles, and you can try dropping a stitch and then picking it up later, but I rarely find that successful. Usually I have to ladder down and find that stitch. Now if you look closely at this, let's see if I can make it a little closer. You can see that I have the 3 columns of twisted knit stitches coming up here. And this one, I want this column of stitches to be on top. And on this one, I want this column of stitches to be on top. And since this is going that way, it's left slanting. And since this one is going this way, it is right slanting. Now, again, I found it easier to use 2 cable needles. And hopefully you can see that these 2 cable needles are a different color. I found that a little easier to manage. And God knows I have enough cable needles in the house because I buy them every time I see them. I am a cable needle user. I rarely use twisted stitches without them. I know how. I can do it. I just prefer the look of using the cable needle. And I'm an old-fashioned knitter. What can I say? So I'm going to work up to this first section. And don't worry that you can't see, because there's nothing to see at this point. I'm purling. And there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've got all my purl stitches here. And now I'm at the place where I want to work this cable. Now this is the stitch that's going to be on top. So I'm going to be holding it to the front. Okay, this is the left slanting. Now, the center stitch I want to be in the back. And I'm going to put it on a cable needle and hold it to the back. So I've got 2 stitches on 2 cable needles. And now, here's the stitch that I want next. Now, the reason I've done this is I want the stitch in the center to be at the very, very, very back of this cable. So I'm going to work these 2 stitches that are on the sides of the cable that are going to cross to be on top of that. So I'm going to work this stitch, and this is a twisted stitch pattern. I'm going to take care not to grab that cable needle, or it's not going to be pretty. And I have twisted my stitch. Okay? Now I'm going to work the stitch in the center, and it's in the way back, so I know that it's going to be standing in the way back. And I work it, and now I take that cable needle off, get it out of there, and now I'm going to work the stitch on top that has been held at the front, and it's going to make the cable, and it's a twisted stitch. So that's just adding a little level of complication to this. And if you've worked with twisted stitches before, you know that they're just kind of a pain. You've got to twist them every time, or if you don't. Now you can see that this stitch is crossing over, the center stitch is behind both of those stitches. Can that be kind of, you could do it, well, I don't know. I just prefer it this way. I tried several ways and that didn't work. The left slanting is by far the easiest. The right slanting requires some major manipulations. So I'm going to work over to where those cable stitches are going. And here I have the 3 stitches. Now, this is the stitch that's going to be on top. Okay, or rather, sorry, excuse me. This is the stitch that's going to be on top. So I'm going to have to deal with these 2 stitches on cable needles. And I'm going to put the first one, and in this case, since this one's going to be on top, this has got to go in the back. Then I've got this stitch. It's got to go in the back as well. So I have these 2 stitches in the back. And at this point, I can work my stitch here that's going to make this a right slanting cable. I'm going to pull this tight, and I've got it. Now, I have these 2 stitches on the back, and what I learned to do, and it took me quite a while to figure it out, is that I need to manipulate these 2 stitches, kind of cross them here to make sure that although I'm going to be working that center stitch first, it is laying behind this one. So I'm going to work it next. Oops, dropping a stitch here. And this is one of those futsy little things, but if you're a futsy person, you're going to accept this. So I'm going to work this one first, and that's one reason why I used a different color one. I know that the red cable needle is, or the pink one, is the center stitch. So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to work it, and pull that cable needle out. And now I'm going to work the other stitch, and get it out of here. And when the next row is worked, you can see that that's a right slanting. This is a left slanting. And here we go, work to the end. And I'm not going to look back at places on this sweater now that it's finished and see that I screwed this up. Okay? Again, are you ever going to use this? Well, really, only if you use this particular stitch pattern, which is pretty esoteric. I haven't seen it in many places.